Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Buck the System. I'm your host, David West. And today I'm just going to have a really quick little episode for you. I've been busy all week. I got hired at the last minute for a little freelance videography job here in town. And I have two kind of bigger, more involved episodes I've been working on. One of those is going to be sort of getting into the idea of why and how exactly being a doctor does not necessarily make you qualified to discuss the issue of gun rights. I think that should be a lot of fun. I think that even a lot of people who would be offended by hearing me suggest that will have to admit that the video presents some problems for the idea that doctors are the best people to be talking about guns. I really don't know how you can't, because I'm putting together a lot of facts and statistics for it, and it should be pretty fun. And then the other thing I'm working on is a very short video, but a very involved one, about how riding a school bus is 27 times more dangerous than school shootings. And you might hear that statistic and think it sounds crazy, but you'll see how I get there when I do that video. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is a story that I just learned about a couple hours ago, and it's kind of shocking to me, although it really shouldn't be, given what we know about law enforcement and gun grabbers in this country. But so this story is, how about I just let the news tell you about it? So as you might notice, this is a rather old story. This is from August 27th, 2019. So it's not particularly recent, but I want to have you guys watch this because there's been some updates in this story.
Police arrested a student at Lake Superior State University over the weekend. He's now charged with a felony related to a threat posted on social media. Gerhard is accused of posting a threat against the LSSU community, and we're learning more about what that threat may have been. 9 and 10's Xavier Hershevitz was in the suit today getting reaction from the campus community and has more details.
This is a nice campus. It's the first thing I've ever heard of happening on this campus.
Police arrested Lake Superior State University student Gerhard Saturday. He's charged with false report for threat of terrorism. The university tells us there was a threat posted on social media and a resident assistant reported it to campus public safety. A student at LSSU sent this to 9 and 10 News saying it's the threat Gerhard posted and it had been circulating around campus. We haven't been able to confirm with Sault Ste. Marie Police the exact nature of these threats, but students are reacting.
That was a little scary just because you usually think about it happening at bigger universities, not one that's small. It was a little concerning almost to hear that.
I feel safe knowing that it was taken care of.
The students we talked to didn't know about the incident.
And no idea. I'm very confused.
LSSU provided us with this email sent out on Saturday to students regarding the incident.
So they should always check their email. It's our main form of communication to them. The safety of the community and the campus is our most important thing we're worried about here. Our students were never in danger at this point. Staff, faculty, no one's in danger.
Wing Lukowski tells us in the event of an emergency on campus, they do have a separate alert system, one that would send out emails, but also text alerts and social media posts. From Sault Ste. Marie, Xavier Hershevitz, 9 and 10 News.
Man, that's one nerdy reporter. So, so that's the story. We got this picture here of this kid looking like a school shooter, but when you hear the actual story, you might have a little bit different impression. So, let's switch to another one of my tabs here. All right, so here's a story that goes over what actually happened here. Student spends 83 days in jail, faces terrorism charges, 20 years in prison for posting photo of AR-15 to Snapchat. So they showed this briefly on the news. You probably couldn't see it there because it's pretty small, but this is the picture he posted. He wrote on it, "Taking this bad boy up, this oughta make the snowflakes melt, eh?" And I mean snowflakes as in snow, and I think that's a laughing emoji. So he posted this as he was about to go back to his third year of college. He was taking this rifle with him, and legally, mind you. And as you can see, he has a whole lot of thin blue wine, and that wasn't a lisp. I meant to say wine. A whole lot of thin blue wine propaganda on his stuff. Apparently, he's going to school to be a cop, which was exactly what I thought the second I saw this picture. He's a criminal justice major, I guess. So I won't read you the whole article, but basically he got to the school, and one of the first things he did was he took his rifle to the school's armory. I guess they have an armory where students can store their guns. And he dropped it off there, and along with 700 rounds of ammo, and thought that was it. And then sometime, I don't know if it was before that or after that, whatever happened, he'd sent this Snapchat picture to a group of his friends, and one of them, who did not view it as a threat at all, they understood that he was making a sort of double entendre here, talking about making snowflakes melt, as in, wow, this would trigger liberal students, and then also snowflakes as in snow, because where was this? Michigan? Yeah, so he's in by Lake Superior, in I think that's northern Michigan. So very cold place. So it was just a reference to how it's cold. So his friend didn't take it as a threat at all, but I guess she showed it to someone who did take it as a threat. Whether they took that honestly as a threat or not is up for question, because apparently, she's someone who he'd had some political disagreements with in the past and had blocked on Snapchat because she was always harassing him. And you can see this picture here. It's actually the Snapchat photo in someone's hand on a phone, and then someone just took a picture of that. So I guess that girl saw this picture somehow from the actual friend or acquaintance of this young man and asked if she could take a picture of it, and did. And then she sent it into the media. So, I mean, I guess she sent this into the media thinking we should take this as a serious threat. And she then reported that to the authorities. And yeah, the authorities, I'll read you a little bit of this kid's dad's account. His dad is a retired Marine colonel. I don't know if he's a colonel or a lieutenant colonel, but he's some sort of colonel in the Marines. I think it'll say when we actually read it. And yeah, he's pretty outraged by the whole thing. The kid ended up spending 83 days in jail because of the way that they handled it and how high they'd set his bond to. They're taking it very seriously. I mean, he has a trial coming up in March for this actual thing. Thankfully, him and his dad are fighting it. But if you look at all the context here, you would think that a prosecutor would be able to see, this kid looks like he's in, I don't know if this is ROTC or JROTC, something like that. He's clearly into thin blue line stuff. I guess he's going to school to be a criminal justice major, wants to be a cop. Obviously I have my problems with police in the military as a libertarian anarchist, but generally people that want to be cops and want to be in the military, those aren't the people that go on to be mass shooters. It's a very bizarre story. So let me read you a little bit of what his dad had to say. Lucas is a very conservative young man, and he's very vocal about it. He's not one to shy away and back down from an argument. In today's college environment, where seemingly a majority of the student body and a lot of the educators are trending liberal, Lucas found himself in a rolling dogfight up there his first 2 years. He's had a lot of run-ins with various progressive activists up there. It's a small school. Let me zoom this in for you guys. It's a small school. There are only roughly 2,000 students. Lucas was going up there for criminal justice, law enforcement. He wants to be a cop, and they have a great program. He fought through a lot of roadblocks. There were moments he was getting harassed by anonymous people calling in and complaining about him in one fashion and another. He was visited by the public safety department more than a few times just because these people had called in and said they disagreed with him for whatever reason, and he had to deal with that. His car was vandalized, the rear window smashed out. The school never really followed through with any kind of serious investigation. That really was the beginning of a lot of issues. Lucas had a political dispute with his accuser about Columbus Day, which she demanded he refer to as Indigenous People Day, and this girl was very passionate that it should not be Columbus Day. Lucas eventually just blocked her off his Snapchat. Not only did Lucas find it necessary to block this one particular girl, but in time a few others too, because they were so antagonistic, which is fine. It happens. What caused all this was Lucas, over the summer, worked his tail off at a restaurant, bussing tables and hosting and dishwashing. and saved up a lot of money and told me he wanted to buy a rifle. I had taken him out to the range repeatedly and taught him to shoot, and he displayed a lot of safety, was very conscious about the weapon. So we went to a local gun shop, and he ordered a Colt AR-15A4. Oh, man. Oh, Dad, you steered him wrong here. I mean, a Colt AR-15A4 is a good rifle, but I don't know if that's what I would encourage my kid to blow all his hard-earned money on over the summer. You can get a lot more rifle for that kind of money looking elsewhere than Colt. But anyway, took it out a few times and absolutely loved it. He posted a Snapchat picture of his rifle leaning against his school stuff, basically saying, and I paraphrase, "I'm taking this rifle up to school, and it would most likely trigger perpetually reactionary anti-gun snowflakes." And he really meant nothing other than that. He was having a laugh about imagining that reaction, but at the same time was also joking about the snowy conditions up there. It's icy up there practically 9 months out of the year, so it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek chuckle about that as well. And an important point to add is that during the entire time the Snapchat was posted, he was confident that this was going to be seen only by those peers in a select friends list. So he posted the picture, doesn't think anything more about it. He had a friend say, "You might want to think twice about posting stuff like that. It's going to get you on the FBI's radar." A lot of us are on the FBI's radar, I'm sure. Don't worry about it, kid. Because people will take offense and complain. I get it. I'm not a liberal, but you better be careful. Lucas replied, asking, why would anyone take this post as a threat? But posted a disclaimer anyway, stating that the picture was indeed, quote, not a threat. And then he eventually deleted the original post. Well, in between the time that he had sent the snap, the girl that got it legitimately as part of the group of Snapchat friends really didn't have any problem with it. She stated under oath in the preliminary exam she didn't think it was a threat, didn't think anything else of it, but her friend who had been blocked saw it and took a picture with her own phone and then reported it to the residential assistant supervisor. The supervisor told them they better go to public safety, so they did. And public safety elevated it up to the Salt Saint, well, I don't know what that abbreviation STE is. I'm assuming that's like their municipality. The Sault Ste. Marie Police, who eventually came and searched Lucas's room after he had arrived, checked in his rifle and ammo, got his campus building pass key, and moved into his dormitory room. The curious thing about it, and I get it, I'm a retired colonel of Marines. I fought terrorists for pretty much half of my career, so I get the whole cautious approach to this by the school. I understand that. It's not like I'm insanely overreacting to that. Actually, what I'm saying is, aside from this being in no way, shape, or form terrorism by any stretch of the definition, the LSSU administration severely underreacted in reality if they were that seriously concerned about this being a potential danger. So I'll skip a couple paragraphs here, but basically he just goes into how, yeah, like if the kid was actually going to do anything, why would she just not do anything at all about it and then like later arrest him? Obviously that means he wasn't going to do anything. So he checked in his gun, unloaded most of his gear. The police and an LSSU public safety representative came and knocked on his door a little while later. They told him he was under suspicion of making terroristic threats. Mind you, at this point, the kid has taken his AR-15 and dropped it off with the school's armory like he's supposed to be there, which I just find kind of funny. They're acting like he's a school shooter because I'm obviously someone who'd never be a school shooter, but you think I don't obey that law? I'd have a gun in my room. Obviously. Or I just wouldn't go to college. They told him he was under suspicion of making terroristic threats. When Lucas questioned how could melting snow possibly be interpreted as a terroristic threat, one of the police officers actually compared that to the Wizard of Oz, where the Wicked Witch gets melted, or in other words, is killed by Dorothy and her pals. Not kidding about that. It was the actual rationale that cop gave Lucas as the reasoning behind the charge. Unbelievable, but true. Lucas called me immediately. I decided to drive up to provide moral support as he was obviously concerned and confused. So real quick, I want to go back to something here. You see this picture. Now that you know a little bit about what's actually going on here, I am not one of these guys who's going to go about whining about how, it's the hardest thing in the world to be a straight white man today. I don't think it's that hard to be any of those things. And I am obviously all of them. So that said, there is a ridiculous tendency among people to, like, the second they see anyone get arrested for something like this, they're like, oh, just look at him. He just looks like a school shooter. You can see it in his eyes. You can see it in his pasty white face, which cracks me up. Like, why are we judging people based on their looks? If you actually hear the story, this poor kid had been put through a lot on the day this happened. He's probably pissed off, like, are you freaking kidding me? That stupid picture got me in trouble. These dumbass SJW types reported me for having a rifle. It's understandable he'd look a bit pissed. Look at him in a lot of his other pictures. He looks just like a happy nerd, like a dork, not threatening at all. So it's just funny that people would judge this picture like this, especially because actually, if you look at the statistics, white men are not disproportionately likely to be school shooters. In fact, the racial breakdown of mass shooters, not school shooters, sorry, but the racial breakdown of mass shooters is actually pretty much right in line with the racial demographics of the United States as a whole, although white people are actually slightly underrelated, interestingly enough. Underrepresented, sorry. It's very late as I'm recording this, so if I stumble over words, forgive me. Anyway, back to this article. Lucas was taken to the Chippewa County Jail. I skipped something here. Okay, that doesn't matter. So basically, he went up there and his son was released from jail for a little while, and it wasn't until like another day or two later they decided to press charges. They went out to eat, a nice, casual, and fun evening. However, the next morning there's a knock on the door and 2 police officers take him into custody. I stood there in complete disbelief that the county prosecutor had actually decided to pursue charges. Lucas was taken to the Chippewa County Jail, where he was booked and held. I went and talked to the school, and I said, I don't know why the prosecutor is pushing this. Lucas is not a threat. I can tell you that very sincerely. At that point, I didn't think they were really going to pursue the charge as written, but either way, I knew Lucas would be in no mindset to attend classes that semester, after all of which had just transpired. It's almost like you thought your son was a snowflake. Sorry, I shouldn't belittle him. This actually is a pretty bullshit situation. I can totally see why he wouldn't want to go back to school after this. I made the decision to disenroll him from school. The arraignment was conducted about a week later, and first of all, the bond they wanted. So already this kid's been in jail for a week, it sounds like. If they waited a week to arraign him, so he's in jail, I mean, that's crazy. They wouldn't try to arraign him the next day or, after the weekend or whatever. The arraignment was conducted about a week later, and first of all, the bond they wanted was $250,000. Now, I believe that when a bond like that is asked for, I think you can pay only 10% of it. I think that's how it works. And then maybe get that back at the end. But I mean, that's still asking a lot of money for people. Even if they go through some bond bailsman, then it's just a whole fiasco. So the next part, I think, is what really screwed this kid and got him stuck in there. So the next part says, but along with a withering list of other provisions and restrictions, the prosecutor demanded Lucas tethered within Chippewa County. The judge concurred, which eliminated all hope of bonding Lucas out at that time for obvious reasons. I assume what he's getting at there is that he could have bonded him out somehow, going through the bail bondsman or whatever who helps him pay that. But he doesn't live in Chippewa County. The dad's 10 hours away. I don't know if he's in another state or just on the other end of the state. Whatever it is, he's 10 hours away. He obviously doesn't live in this county, so it was just completely impractical to get him out and have anywhere for him to stay, especially now that he disenrolled him in school, and I'm sure the school wouldn't want him back while he's pending mass shooter investigation, or terroristic threat investigation, I should say. So Lucas was taken to the Chippewa County where he was, went back here. So he sat in jail for 83 days. I had visitation once every Saturday. It's a 10-hour round trip for me, but I'd go up and visit him every Saturday. It was pretty stressful for him. Lucas has a totally clean record. He's honestly sounds like a nerd. He's like an Eagle Scout and stuff, as they say later. Like, I totally believe that this kid has no record whatsoever. He's probably never even been suspended from school like some of us rebels have been known to have happened to us. He's never been in trouble, ever. So for him to all of a sudden find himself in a jail environment was obviously not the best circumstances for his mental well-being. Part of my rationale for asking him to be transferred to my custody was, first of all, like I said, I'm a retired colonel. I guess he's a full bird colonel. I don't remember them saying if he's a lieutenant colonel or not, so I'll assume he's a full bird, unless I missed that. So I would at least hope that was proof that I'm not a malcontent miscreant who would allow him to flee, and I work for the federal government. Wonder what he does now. I've got a top secret SCI clearance, and if I were to allow him to flee, not that he would, but that would revoke my security clearance in itself. Again, that just wasn't taken into consideration, and I would go so far as to say completely ignored by the district judge. These really are things you think they'd take into consideration. I mean, you really would have, maybe I wouldn't because I've had experience with prosecutors, but you would think that they would be able to look at the context here beforehand and say, his dad's Marine colonel, seems to be a good kid. He has no record. He's an Eagle Scout. He's just conservative. Was using snowflake, a very common term. You look at all this stuff. He wants to be a cop. Like, none of it lines up with the typical profile of a mass shooter. So it's so crazy that they kept pushing this. Lucas is now under house arrest. A bond modification hearing was held on November 12th. I guess that would have been the point at which he'd been incarcerated for 83 days without trial or anything. And his attorney, Mark Tobias, was successful in getting the circuit court judge and county prosecutor to agree to allow him to be remanded to my custody on a home confinement tether and bond reduction to $200,000, which I think means he would have had to pay $20,000. Here's a curious thing. While I was in the courtroom waiting for Lucas to arrive under escort for the bond modification hearing, there's a kid, 20 or 21 years old, whose case came up. He was in there for attempted murder, attempted distribution of a controlled substance, and intimidation of a witness, and they set his bond at $10,000. That kind of got me thinking. There's a kid up there for attempted murder and all of this other stuff, and his bond is set at $10,000, and Lucas was at that point still $250,000. I didn't think it was fair, but that's what it is. This guy's a very repetitive writer. You can tell he was a Marine. I'm confident that we're in the right on this. Everyone who knows Lucas, who is an Eagle Scout, by the way, so a giant nerd, was completely blindsided by the ferocity of the charges. And frankly, I'm surprised how the prosecutors have used seemingly unlimited discretion to charge basically whatever they want, with absolutely no consequences to themselves. If this case is dismissed or Lucas is acquitted, the prosecutor risks basically nothing. Lucas had been in jail for 83 days. He just got home on November 13th. I had hired a very reputable local attorney, Mark Tobias, after the initial arraignment. Just recently, after a flood of individual referrals, I brought in a co-counsel who is well known in the constitutional conservative arena, Nick Somberg, and the entire time I've been working with my state representative, John Riley, and Adam De Angeli, who his chief of staff, who had been incredibly helpful in guiding me through this and putting me in contact with various individuals, organizations, who have helped immensely with their knowledge as we move forward. The current status is we're awaiting trial. Lucas's trial is set for March 18th through 20th at the 50th Circuit Court in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I need to know what that is. Is that Saint? That wouldn't make sense. That's not Saint. Anyway, so he's awaiting trial. He's got a trial coming up about 6 weeks from now here. I'm really curious to see what happens there. I don't see any way that it doesn't get dismissed. I'm actually shocked that it's made it this far. At some point in the near future, I'm going to have to make an episode about the time that I was falsely arrested by Medford PD. Long story short, they set up a speed trap by my house, and I went and protested it. I'd literally 2 days earlier told my buddy Travis, I was like, next time those idiots set up a speed trap by my house, I'm going to go protest it. So I went down there with the sign that said tax whore pig with an arrow pointing to them. I wanted to make the most incendiary sign possible to see what they would do. And I had the good sense to leave my more expensive guns at home. I just had my .357 on my hip. I went and open carried and held that sign and stood there. And yeah, long story short, it took about 2 minutes for the cops to show up and at gunpoint arrest me. And, I am not an Eagle Scout who has never been in trouble in my life. I've had a lot of experience getting in trouble at school and stuff. And more than a few times have I had cops wrongly point guns at me or other people wrongly point guns at me. Another story. So I was kind of laughing about it, even though I did know in the back of my head, Cops are notorious for shooting at bad times. They don't always have great marksmanship or trigger discipline. So my life is a little bit in danger now. I thought the whole thing was funny. They put me in the car. They started questioning about what had happened. And after like 45 minutes or so, me sitting in the back of a 110-degree cop car in the summer, they come and like, all right, we're booking you for disorderly conduct for obstructing traffic. And I'm like, what? Are they going to try to claim my sign was making it hard for drivers to see even though I was on the sidewalk? Well, it turns out the cops on the police report said that I had blocked traffic. The problem for them was that I had video proof that didn't happen because I'm a filmmaker, so I had a camera across the street they didn't realize. Eventually, I got the charges dismissed. I'll make a whole like hour-long episode about it sometime. It'll be a lot of fun. But so I know how boneheaded these prosecutors can be, even when all the evidence points to the person being innocent. I mean, the prosecutor in that case had the tape that completely exonerated me and showed that the cops, more specifically probably the radar van operator, had just completely fabricated a story about me blocking cars. They had that tape in their possession the whole time, and they just never watched it, which me and my attorney kind of were just like, let's let them perjure themselves on stand. We'll see what happens. Although it didn't eventually make it to trial because eventually they did watch it and be like, oh, wait, we don't have a case, and they dropped it. So I have firsthand experience knowing how boneheaded prosecutors can be. So I don't know what's going on here. Like, they've had 83 days. My case took like 6 months to actually get anywhere. 8 months? It was a long time. So, you know, maybe they just haven't looked into the evidence yet, but you'd think they would have looked into it somewhat and realized, no, we shouldn't be prosecuting this. They're literally just burning resources, wasting money, keeping this kid incarcerated. And for what? For nothing. Crazy to me. I mean, you can see it. Like, doesn't all the evidence point to, no, this was exactly what this kid says it was. He clearly isn't a mass shooter. I mean, it would have been, honestly, silly enough that they went and talked to him in the first place, but somewhat understandable given that someone brought a report to them. They kind of have to follow up on it. And the silliness is mostly on the person who saw that Snapchat message and thought that was a threat, not on the people that then had to respond to it. But the fact that they actually escalated it, they actually tried to press charges, absolutely insane to me. And what the real reason that I wanted to tell you the story, besides just the fact that it's interesting, and I think it's something that anyone interested in gun rights should be aware of, is that it's actually pretty timely given some stuff I'm working on. So earlier today, I did an impromptu live stream with the great libertarian activists Jack V. Lloyd and The Philosopher about a project I'm going to be working on with them. They're putting together a project called Red Flag Reality. In fact, let me show you that. So they are putting together a project. They're fundraising for it right now called Red Flag Reality, and it's about the danger of red flag laws. And they're going to be hiring me as the cinematographer and like editor and kind of doing a lot of the technical filmmaking type side of the production. I think it's going to be really cool. We did like a 2-hour stream today and talked about it. I'll link to that in the comments if you want to watch it. And this story, I don't even think that this story involves actual red flag laws. I think it's just that they reported he made a, quote, terroristic threat, and they've now been kind of maliciously prosecuting him for that. And while it isn't like literal red flag legislation that led to this, I think that this story does make it very easy to imagine how red flag laws could be abused and how just how easy it would be to ruin someone's life, at least for a time, or permanently if things didn't go well when the cops showed up to serve a red flag warrant. It's easy to see how people could use that against political rivals, against someone like me who they don't like hearing me, on the internet talking about gun rights. Maybe one of the grieving mothers that I call delusional for not wanting to confront the actual situations under which their child was killed. Maybe one of them sees me and gets pissed about it and calls the local law enforcement and says, hey, look at this guy, you got to look into him. And next thing you know, I'm in jail, or awaiting some kind of trial. My guns have been taken away from me and I'm in a bare set. I mean, these are real concerns. And I think this story is a good example of why we are very right to be concerned about them. So if you're interested, please check out the Red Flag Reality Indiegogo page. I'll link to it here. We're currently at almost $17,000, and it should be noted that right now the Firearms Policy Coalition, which is a wonderful no compromise pro-gun lobbying group, much more pro-gun than something like the NRA would be. They're helping out a lot with this project. They're sponsoring. They've already kicked in $10,000 for it, and now they are matching funds up to $15,000. So if you wanted to kick in $200, they will match your $200. You've now essentially given us $400 for the project. I think it's going to be a really great project. I'm really excited about it. It's not all the time that I get a chance to work on something in my, freelance filmmaking profession that is pro-gun like this. A lot of times I'm just doing very boring corporate work. So I'm excited to work on it for that reason alone. But more than that, I know more about the story and what it's going to be and what we're going to put together. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really awesome. We're going to make a high-end PSA short film that will be absolutely on par with any of the propaganda efforts that, Every Town for Gun Safety and the like are putting out. So I'll show you the fundraising video here, and then I'll wrap this episode up.
When those who wish to live peacefully and enjoy their rights to life, liberty, and property are treated as evildoers, madmen, terrorists, there can no longer be silence. It is time to take a stand for liberty, as once did those who gave their lives to advance human flourishing. Join us in building the resistance against the propaganda demonizing gun owners. Support the Red Flag Reality film today.
Hello everyone, thank you for visiting us here at the Red Flag Reality Film Project. As you've seen, the attacks against peaceful gun owners have been escalating these past few years. We want to change the discourse for liberty by producing a dramatic short to counter the gun-grabbing propaganda of gun control groups. These other groups have millions of dollars at their disposal to produce their own emotionally driven shorts in an attempt to convince Americans that no private person should be able to own a gun, which is why we need your help to counter their films with our own, taking the same kind of tactics they use and flipping the script on them by demonstrating just how violent and murderous gun control laws really are. If you would, please take a moment to support this project with a perk purchase. Every bit of support gets us closer to our goal of making a hard-hitting, dramatic short that exposes the nature of red flag laws. And in addition to helping us make the film, you can spend some quality time with me and other liberty lovers at the range with the Range Day event perk. It's going to be a great time of shooting guns and hanging out. Let's work together and change the culture for robust respect of firearms freedom and self-defense.
Alrighty, so there you go. Yeah, I would love it if you guys would support that project. Jack and Fa are great people, and I'm excited to work with them on this. So yeah, go over there. There's some cool perks. Check it out. Even if you can't donate, maybe give it a share. We'd really appreciate it. We're in the final 3 weeks of fundraising here, kind of going into the home stretch. We're going to be really pushing it hard, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, hopefully, I'm really glad that this story of this kid Lucas, I forget his last name, it's a complicated one, is on my radar now. I'm definitely going to be following it. I'm sure I will update you guys in 6 or 8 weeks after his trial and we've seen the outcome of that. I mean, there's basically no way he's not going to be exonerated at the trial. I don't see how they could stretch it on any longer than that, let alone convict him. But I'm still very curious to see how it all ends up. And who knows, maybe I'll try to get him and his dad on my show one of these days after that. It'd be fun to talk to him. I'm especially curious, since he wants to be a cop, if maybe there's a silver lining in all of this, and this is going to push him a more libertarian, anarcho-capitalist direction. I would love that. I struggle to see how something this unjust and insane happening to you, especially as an idealistic, naive little Eagle Scout kid, how that wouldn't kind of shake his worldview a little bit and make him wonder, oh man, I wanted to be a cop. I want to be part of the thin blue line. Is that what these guys do? I really hope that's the case. I would love it if this kid becomes a libertarian through this. But anyway, guys, I will be back soon, very soon, with a couple episodes. Hopefully, like maybe Monday after the weekend, I'll have my episode about how doctors are not inherently qualified to talk about gun rights episode up. And then very soon after that, I'll have my fun school shootings are not nearly as dangerous as school buses video up. So anyway, guys, have a good weekend. Stay safe out there if you're going to the range or anything. I wish I was. I'm helping a buddy move tomorrow, so that'll be taking up all my time. And yeah, you guys have a good weekend. Take care. Bye.